It's kind of wild when you think about it. How do millions, even billions of people who've never met all somehow agree on the price of, well, everything? It's one of the most beautiful ideas in all of economics, and it all starts with a little bit of a mystery. And that mystery starts with something you probably have on your desk right now, a simple pencil. Seriously, think about it for a second. The wood, it comes from a tree that somebody had to cut down. The graphite inside, that was mined somewhere else entirely. The rubber for the eraser, probably tapped from a tree in a completely different country. And that little metal bit holding it all together, that's a whole other story. We're talking thousands of people all over the world speaking different languages who have no idea the others even exist, and yet they all cooperated to make this one pencil. So who's the boss? Who's in charge of all this?
And that right there, that's the central puzzle. There is no pencil CEO directing this global ballet of production. It's what the Nobel laureate economist F.A. Hayek called the fundamental problem of knowledge. How on earth do we coordinate all of this scattered information, all this local know-how, to create anything at all, let alone something as simple as a pencil?
Well, the answer is, it's shockingly simple, and it's something we see every single day, but probably don't think twice about. It's the price tag. That's it. Prices are the secret language of the market, the invisible signals that make the whole world work.
So how does a simple number on a tag do all of that heavy lifting? Well, a price is so much more than just a number. It's like a super compressed packet of information. It tells producers what you, the consumer, actually want. And at the same time, it tells you how much of that thing is available. This creates powerful incentives. Entrepreneurs see a high price and think, hey, people really want that. I should make more of it. And it allows all of us to coordinate our actions without ever needing a meeting or a central planner. It's this beautiful mechanism that guides resources from where they're not really needed to where they are desperately wanted.
Okay, so prices are these amazing signals. Got it. But how does this signaling system actually bring order out of what could be total chaos? Well, it all comes down to finding a very specific point of balance, a concept that economists call equilibrium.
Think of market equilibrium as a state of perfect harmony. It's like a perfectly balanced seesaw. It's that sweet spot, that magic price point, where the number of pencils companies want to sell is exactly the same as the number of pencils people want to buy. When you hit that point, there's no pressure for the price to go up or down. Everything is, well, in equilibrium. It's a moment of balance.
But, of course, the real world isn't a perfectly still photograph, right? The market is always moving, always changing. So what happens when the price isn't quite at that sweet spot? Well, that's where things get interesting. This is where the push and pull begins, always nudging the market back towards that equilibrium point. All right, so let's say a store starts selling a new brand of coffee, but they get greedy and price it way too high. At that high price, the coffee company is thrilled. They're making tons of it. But for us, the buyers, it's just too expensive. And what's the result? You've got shelves full of dusty, unsold coffee cans. That's a surplus. And to get rid of it, the store has only one choice: put it on sale. Lower the price. That downward pressure is the market, in real time, correcting itself.
Now, let's flip that script. Imagine that same coffee is priced way too low. It's a bargain. Everybody wants it. But at that rock-bottom price, the coffee company can't make much money, so they don't produce enough. You know what this looks like? Empty shelves, frustrated customers, that's a shortage. This scarcity creates upward pressure. Buyers might be willing to pay more, and sellers quickly realize they can charge more. That higher price then gives them the incentive to start making more coffee. The market corrects itself again. And here's where it gets really fascinating. This constant push and pull towards balance, this invisible handshake, it doesn't just happen in the coffee aisle. It happens everywhere, even in markets that are totally illegal and operate completely in the shadows.
I mean, think about the illegal drug market. Just because something is against the law doesn't mean the laws of economics just vanish. The forces of supply and demand are still there, pushing and pulling, trying to find a price where the amount being supplied meets the amount being demanded. The market is always trying to find its balance, even when it's forced underground.
But, and this is a huge but, while the economic forces are the same, the results are completely different. In a formal legal market, we have courts and the rule of law to settle disagreements. We have property rights, so you know it's yours. In a black market, conflicts are often settled with violence. Product quality is, to put it mildly, unreliable. The lack of a legal safety net changes everything.
We also see a version of this with something like concert tickets. The official price for that superstar's show is often set way below the actual equilibrium price. The result is an instant shortage. So how are the tickets handed out? Well, other methods pop up, like forcing people to wait in line for hours. But because the demand is still so high, a black market or, a scalping market inevitably appears to find that true, higher equilibrium price.
But of course, it gets even more complicated because no product exists in a vacuum. The search for balance in one market is constantly being affected by what's happening in other markets, especially when we're talking about related goods.
First up, you've got what are called substitute goods. It's a really simple idea. These are just products or services that you can basically swap out for one another. If one gets too pricey, you just switch to the other.
The classic example is margarine and butter. If the price of butter goes through the roof, guess what happens to the demand for margarine? It goes up. But this logic applies to all sorts of decisions. Want to get in shape? You could go to the gym, or you could eat less. They're substitutes for the same goal. And this logic can even be taken to some pretty wild extremes. In a purely, grimly economic sense, getting a legitimate job and robbing a bank are substitutes. If the price of robbing a bank, meaning the punishment, goes way down, the demand for legitimate jobs could actually fall.
And then you have the opposite of substitutes, complementary goods. These are the things that are just better together. They're a team. The value of one goes up when you have the other one.
You know these pairs, coffee and milk, gin and tonic, cars and gasoline, they just go hand in hand. So let's say a new tax makes the price of gin skyrocket. What happens? Well, fewer people are going to buy gin, and because of that, the demand for tonic water is going to fall right along with it. Their fates are linked.
So all of this shows us that the market isn't some supercomputer that just instantly spits out the perfect price. It's a constant, messy process of trial and error, of feedback and adjustment. Economists actually have this wonderful French term for it, tâtonnement, which literally means groping in the dark. And that's a perfect description. It's a continuous search for a balance point that's always moving.
And that leads us to one final kind of mind-bending thought. What if this perfect equilibrium point isn't really a destination, but more of a direction? Some economists argue that this perfect balance is just a theoretical idea, something the market is always moving towards, but maybe never actually reaches. Is the market a final state of being, or is it a never-ending process of discovery? It's something to think about.